Hello everyone, this is Betsy from Ideas Times 2, and today I have a video tutorial. So especially if you enjoy working with file folders, this little wraparound journal that I made recently is made out of a file folder, so I thought I'd bring you along with me and show you how I made the cover and a little bit about the decorations and things on the cover. So let me just sort of leaf through it just a tiny bit so you can see what I'm talking about. So it has an eyelet in it with a sari silk closure, and it just wraps around and keeps it closed. I've attached a front pocket here, so this has a few fun little tags in it. And the back part of this, I also put a double pocket, so this has is filled with some fun things, and then this is just decorative here. On the inside I put a slotted pocket here, and then I utilized part of the file folder over on this side to hold some little bits of ephemera, and then on the back cover, which is actually the center sort of panel here, the back portion here has a pocket. I think it's just, yes, just a pocket with some things in it, and it's collaged on the front of that. So otherwise it's just a regular junk journal. Really I didn't have a theme except for green. I kind of kept it in green families as much as possible. So just sort of a typical junk journal on the inside. So then this just folds this way. This wraps like that. And it will not stay closed by itself, so it has a closure that just wraps around, and I have a charm here on the end to kind of help it slip in and out, and to keep the ends tied together as well. So it just goes something like that. So I'm going to leave that off to the side. I'm sure I'll be referring to it here and there. So I've mentioned a few videos ago that I am trying to power through a paper pack and use it all up, and the journal cover I'll be making with you today is going to help me use up some of that paper pack. I think it's called Sweets. It's a Stamperia paper. So here are just a few sheets from that. So I kind of went with this color theme, thinking I was going to go ahead and make a journal to use up some of that paper. So here we go. You will need a hanging file folder for this project. You don't necessarily need a hanging file folder because a regular file folder is just about the same size. The only difference will be like a little bit of a ½ inch measurement on one of our measurements, but for this purpose, this particular cover, I used a hanging file folder just simply because I have a lot of them. And the other part I utilized from the hanging file folder portion is this this little pocket right here, which is obviously where these metal hanging rods go. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a hanging file folder, but just kind of for this particular one, that's what I used. So the first thing to do is we need to remove the metal rods. I don't know what else to call them. Well, you know what I mean, right? Rods. So I already removed it on this side, and as I was, usually the way I remove it is I have a palette knife, which is a very thin, and I'll just run it underneath here and loosen the glue, and then pull the flap apart and take out the metal, the metal rod. But I discovered when I was doing this one, and this one is not going to matter to us at all. The only reason why I cut off the rod is because I'm using a paper cutter and it kind of interferes with that process. But look what I discovered. So this one just pulls right out. I didn't need to loosen it at all. However, I will need to loosen it if I'm going to use it as a pocket, right? So I'm going to go ahead and pry this open. I'm going to see if I can do it quickly. If not, I will turn off the camera and do this off camera. Okay, this one is a little stubborn, so if you're using a vintage file, a hanging file folder, they usually come apart very easily. So I'll be back in just 1 minute. Okay, that was a little rough. Look at the mess. But this will be reinforced with cardstock, so I'm not going to worry about that. So I had a thought though when I was doing this. I told you I was going to make a journal using this paper, and this yellow doesn't match clearly. But I wanted to show you how to cut it because I've already cut the red one, which I will be using for that journal. So let me just show you the cutting process. And I'm going to try. So if you're going to make it the same size as mine, which is like a 6x9 size, that way you don't have to cut down any papers. You can make it any size, but you'll just need to cut down your papers on the inside. So to make it 6x9, we will need to cut this file folder length, or let's see, cut it shorter, so it's long this way, right? So cut it shorter this way. And so the remaining piece here is going to be 15 and a half. Okay, so the file folder will be 15 and a half. So I don't have that much of a mark on there, so I'm going to have to do it this way, where I'm going to use my mat, use the grid lines on my mat, and mark 15 and a half. Yes, 15 and a half. If you're using a regular file folder, keep that in mind. It's going to look different than what I'm doing right now. But you want the total length to be 15 and a half. So I'm keeping this portion of the file folder. Okay. So I put my mark there. I'm going to cut this end off. And it's just a lot easier to use your cutter if you have the metal, the metal edge off of there. That's the only reason why I cut it. Oh, my blade just fell out. Let me see if I can put that back in real quick. That's weird. There we go. 15 and a half. Okay, then we don't need this anymore. But you can use this for pockets in journals or tags. Separate this out or something, make tags or pockets, just all kinds of stuff you can use with the file folder. I love the weight of the file folder. So then we're going to need it to be 8.5 inches tall. Okay, I said 6x9, it's actually 6x8.5. So now this one I do have a measurement for on here. And this is a used folder, and so it's a little bit marred up right there. I don't think that's going to matter too much, but we're just going to go ahead and chop that off on that side. So 8.5 is what I said. So this journal winds up to be, so I'm correcting myself, 6x8.5. And same thing with this, can be used for lots of stuff. So not to waste this yellow folder, because I definitely will use this, and I was thinking about a sunflower folder or journal. I thought that would be really cute with this. So that's the cutting process there. Now the next thing is we want these spines, which are just basically rounded spines. So we want them to be nice and flexible both ways. So what I usually do to help me out there is score. So I will be scoring using my score tool. So leaving this folded like this, we're going to score. I'm looking at my notes, and I do not see the marks, so that's okay. I'll just measure it. Actually, yeah, so I'm not sure I wrote my measurements down, but I did mark it on this red one that I mentioned earlier. So this, I would just flip this baby over with the folded over pocket or tuck spot, and I will mark it at 5 3/4 inches with a pencil, and from this end we're going to mark it at 3 1/4 inches. Yeah, 3 1/4. So we're going to scoot this over, and 1 2 3 1/4. Okay, so you don't have to be quite as precise as that, but oops, I still need my folder or my scoring tool here. You don't have to be quite as precise as this, but these are just handy because you may think that this would be your center of your spine, but it really isn't. It's going to be this. It's going to be over just a slight ½ inch from this mark here. So then what I usually do, so this is the measurement I'm using. I'm gonna score every 1/8 inch mark for 1 inch on each side of that marking. So your total, there are some score marks already in here, so it might, but that won't affect this at all. It might fall on one of those. So just mark that center or that measured line that we have there, and then just keep scoring 1/8 inch until you reach an inch past. And just from what I've seen, this does help with rounding those. Now I'm going to the other side. It gives it a little flexibility for us. Okay. So I'm just going to line that up and do the same thing over here. Try to do that quickly. Actually, you don't have to finish it. You kind of get the idea. 1 inch on either side of your mark. Okay, and so then you can periodically just sort of bend those, and you'll be able to see that it starts, you know, making a nice rounded spine. All right, so the other thing I would do next, if you want to, and this may not matter to you, but I kind of wanted mine to be totally rounded. So what I did was, because I know this fold, this manufacturing fold is going to be really strong, right? So instead of having that sort of jutting out, what I did was, and this is kind of an unnecessary step because we don't need it for the strength of the spine, because we're going to have basically 4 layers of fabric, because I'll show you something else I do too. But we're going to have fabric, at least 2 layers of fabric, and so it's going to be very strong. But what I do to sort of soften that real sharp fold is to put a little strip of Tyvek, or you could do cardstock, maybe a heavy paper, just a little strip, just a tiny little strip to cover that very strong fold there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So as you can see, this is a leftover envelope from a piece of mail that I had. I think it's illegal to buy those. I don't know. I don't know. That's what I heard anyway. So we're just going to do that. We're going to get that nice and soft so it doesn't fold quite as strongly. And the fabric that we're going to be putting on is going to help too, but that's just an extra step. And it will make it stronger, so if you're worried about strength, this is definitely the way to go. Okay, there's that. Now, let's see, the next step would be to, let me see here. All right, I think this one is going to take over now. And you'll see I've got all the things just like I did on the other one. Now, to make the cover even stronger, I'm going to put cardstock over the top. So you can see I've covered this with giant one with a pocket, but you can see here that the lining inside and covering the outside, which you can barely see on the edge here, is an extra layer of cardstock. You can see it here too, and here, and on the back here, and then you can see a little piece of it there. So all kind of lined inside and out with cardstock. So I've already cut those pieces, and the front cover and the inside front cover, the center panel, which will be this one, which is like the back cover to the book, and then on the outside of that as well, those 4 pieces are all going to be 5 1/4 inches wide by the height of your book, which is, in my case, 8 1/2 inches. All right, so let me get those out. I'll show you how that's going to go, and then I won't make you watch me do the whole thing or anything. I haven't decided if I'm going to ink the edges on this, but this would be the time to ink the edges before you glue. So let's do the inside part first here. So I decided on this aqua color for my inside, and then that'll go there. Okay. And then on my outside, obviously, just showed you, I'm using pink. So yeah, I haven't decided if I'm gonna ink the edges. I might just not. If you would like to sew on these first, now would be the time before you start gluing to go ahead and sew those. But I think all I'm going to do, and I did it on the green one too, is just when these are all glued down, I'm going to sew around that whole outside edge of the journal, which I really like that. But you definitely could sew around the edges of these too if you wanted to. I think that would be an awesome look as well. Alright, so I'm just using my Fabri-Tac there. These are little flowers, so I got to make sure the stems are up, right side up. Alright. So now I would just eyeball it and center it. Pardon me. So you had the marks. Whoops! On this one I had it on the other side, but you have the marks where the centers are. So I would just eyeball it and center it on here. Okay, and then this one, if you're going to utilize that pocket thing, we're going to slip this right underneath the pocket tuck spot. So let's do that. Get some of that on there a little bit better. Okay, flowers up. And we're just going to tuck it right down in there. That way it'll strengthen that whole edge. Another thing I wanted to show you too, in case I forget later, but I chose to put the eyelet in, like I could do it now and just do it, you know, hold this away and just do it right here after the paper's on, obviously. But I chose to do it here, and the reason why is because when I thought it through, I thought this long tuck spot is going to have just tiny items in it because it's just a tiny flap, and I thought it would be these would tuck in and stay better with a little kind of space there, so a little anchoring. So that is why I decided to put the eyelet in after all is said and done with that. All these papers and the whole thing. Okay, so I'm going to keep going like this. I think this beige paper is really pretty too. I didn't look at it before I cut it up to know what it really is, but it kind of looks like flowers, a bokeh effect with some flowers. I don't know, it's really pretty though. Sometimes it's hard to decide on a double-sided paper which side to use, but I had my sweets paper to work with, so I picked this color. So these paper linings, actually just go right up, you know, butt up to the edges and everything, just to give the whole cover more strength. Okay, so, and then I will do the back the same way. And I just wanted to show you before we move on. So on my journal that I made, I have fabric at the bendy parts. So on the flap and where the journal goes here. So there's fabric both on the inside cover and on the outside cover. So I'm going to do that same thing. I like how it strengthens the bendy parts. And for that I chose this pinkish fabric, and I've already obviously I've already ripped these. I like the ripped edges, so I ripped these, and it is about 2 inches, and they'll just fit right over like that. Now, I just wanted to mention one other thing. I enjoy the look of the sewing on here, so I did sew down the edges, but you definitely do not have to. The other thing I wanted to mention is I usually line them with some fusible interfacing, which I've done here, just a very lightweight interfacing, or sometimes I'll put paper behind here. The reason why is I want to make sure that the glue doesn't seep through the fabric, and so I just kind of line it. Now that's totally optional. Maybe you're better with glue than I am. I just want to really be sure that I don't have any glue leak through. That's been a disaster for me on a couple of occasions, and so I just want to make sure on that. So that's all I've done here. So when I said earlier that it might be like 4 layers of fabric, that's what I meant, is that there's this tiny layer of interfacing that would also be reinforcing the bends of this. So I don't usually put the glue directly on the fabric, so we'll just go like this and spread it around so there's a nice thin layer. And if we need to come in and tuck a little glue in a few spots, that's perfectly fine. But the whole point is to make sure that glue is in a nice thin layer and it doesn't seep through the fabric. But this fabric is so nice to use because it's flexible. A few glue boogers there. Okay. And then I usually just eyeball this and make sure it's centered from side to side, and then smooth it down. And you could use a bone folder if you'd like. And we'll do the same over here. All right, we're going to do the same here. And then flip this over. Do the same thing with our papers here. And then I picked out a candy fabric for the outside. So this is directional. I'll have to make sure I get it right, the correct side up. So that will go on there, and this will go on here, just like we've done on the inside. And these also have top stitching on them and some lining. So it's all kind of exactly the same, and I'll be back in a minute. All right, so this is the inside, and then this is the outside. It looks kind of silly like this, but once you fold it up, and it'll have some little cupcakes or something on the front here. It's going to be super cute. A pocket with some things in it. So I'm super happy with this. So the next step is to sew around the outside edge. But I thought I'd mention here. So this is pretty bright red, and you may be thinking, well, you know, you can't see the file folder cover anyway. You know, why make sure? Like, why did this make me think of the candy or whatever, or the yellow for the sunflower, you know? But it really was a good starting point to remind me what to make, or to help me think of what to make. But it also, it may show in spots here and there, and so that's the reason why, you know, you might want to think about the color of the file folder. But like for instance, I just left this green right here. Otherwise you can't really see it too much, but anyway, so the color may not matter too much, but then again, it might peek through a little bit, so just be aware. All right, so the next thing I thought, I might collage this. And so before I do any sewing, I wanted to make sure to glue a little strip of paper under here. That way, and it looks like I need to, oh, I just need to scoot it up a little bit. The glue has been drying for a minute, so it's a little bit going to be hard to work with here. And the reason why I'm doing that is so that if I collage on here, the glue won't seep through the little holes there. So I just went ahead and did that. But now is the time to sew. Before I sew, I am going to round the edges. And I think I just used the medium-sized. That's going to be too hard to use, I think. I think I have to use this one. I can't remember if I used a 1/4 inch or half. That looks pretty good. This is lots of layers, so I'm just using my heavy duty puncher. So we're going to do all those corners. And yeah, my puncher is broken. Still, I felt like it was new enough, so I'm just like, I'm just going to have to make do. Try to get my money's worth out of it. They're super expensive. Okay. But it is hard to use. All right, so now I'm ready, and then when I sew, I can either put a little bead of glue on here now, let that dry a little bit to hold it in place. But now I'm going to be stitching around, and I'll be back. All right, all done with that top stitching. So just to show you a little bit what that looks like, and I've been bending those spines, and here's your cover. So the next step would be to put a little eyelet here and wrap around some silk, and then you've got yourself a nice wraparound journal. So excited about this project. Simple, very simple file folder. Ideas are always fun, aren't they? I think we all enjoy file folder projects. And I'm trying to get that silk off my fingers because I've got glue and silk strings are not a good combo. Okay, so the next thing, if you wanted to put a front cover on, as I did here, that cover measurement is 4 5/8 inches wide and 8 1/4 inches tall. So that gives us a little bit of a border. Doesn't come all the way to the edges, and it makes it just a little bit smaller. So that would be the size of that. I'm not going to do that with you guys. It's just a matter of cutting it out, gluing it on 3 edges, and then leaving this portion open. And as you can see, it does overlap the fabric just a tiny bit, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference for the little tags and stuff. It doesn't matter. And this is just decorative. This little tab is decorative. And what else was I going to say? So feel free to put pockets. You can do it before or after your signature. This has, oh boy, if I can remember how many pages it has. I think it's around 80. I don't really remember. It's around 80. That includes fronts and backs. So it holds quite a bit. It's a good size, I think. So feel free to put the pockets, is what I was saying, and then attach your signature, or do it the other way around. I think I did it the other way around. I think I did the signature first because I was really trying to figure out what I was going to be able to fit inside of this cover and still have it close easily. That's my rationale. So here is a slotted pocket. This pocket is a freebie on our Facebook group. So if you're not a member of our group yet, it is. You can look us up at Ideas ×2, and you just have to ask to join the group, and we usually get back to you within, minutes even, or sometimes an hour or two, but we'll get back to you quickly. And make sure you can join the group. That is a freebie, not the ephemera, but just the pocket itself. And then there's lots of room for other pockets, and I even put one on the back. So just literally measured how much room I had to work with here and just did a double pocket. I like pockets on the outside. I don't know why, but this journal will be for sale in our Etsy shop very soon. I'll probably try to get that in tonight. And then this one I'll be working on. So this is going to be a fun cakes and candy journal too. So anyway, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and make sure to send us pictures on our Facebook group if you make one or two. We would absolutely love to see your work. We would love that so much. So please check out our links down below. We have an Etsy shop, Instagram, and Facebook, so those will all be down below. And I guess that's it for today. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We're coming close to 6,000 subbies, and we would just love to hit that that mark very soon. And we have a lot of giveaways when we get these big milestones, so we would love to make it up to 6,000, and we'll see what happens. All right, take care everybody, and we will see you in the next video. Goodbye.